What up, though? I'm Tyler, and this is my channel, Porter Up. Today, we're going to talk about the DMR, and we're going to go in a complete guide on how to use the gun, as well as we're going to go over the attachments, and I'm going to give it a rating towards the end. But before we get started with the guide here, let's just go over the nerfs real fast, because there's been two separate nerfs. The first nerf didn't really do a whole lot. The gun was OP originally, and then the nerf really didn't do a whole lot. Maybe slightly hit it, but really didn't do a whole lot. But the second nerf has really made a big difference, and it definitely brought it down a peg. And you know, it's still viable, but it's just not as overpowered as it once was. But let's go ahead and go into the first one real fast. The first nerf was reduced headshot damage and increased recoil. Didn't do a whole lot, but you can barely tell a difference. The second nerf is where it really hit it. So the bullet penetration reduced from sniper to AR. So if you're getting gunned through buildings, or if you're in a vehicle, I know when I was in vehicles multiple times, like driving or flying a helicopter, I just get gunned out easy because of that bullet penetration. So hopefully that'll definitely help out with that a lot. The damage fall off ranges decreased, so over range, the damage is going to start dropping off, which is good. Increased the base recoil to the gun again. Locational damage multiplier is adjusted. Headshots now do 100 less, or do less than 100 damage after so far of a distance. So the multiplier to the headshot went down. And then they also nerfed two different attachments to the gun as well. So they nerfed the front grip, and they nerf the field agent foregrip. So they nerf the recoil on the base gun, and they nerf the recoil on them two attachments. So after those two nerfs, you can definitely tell a pretty good difference in the recoil. But I mean, it's still a pretty good gun. It's still viable, but it's just not overpowered like it once was. But all right, we'll go and go to the next part. All right, how to use this gun in Warzone. So this gun, you're going to want to pair it with an SMG, a shotgun, or a fast-firing assault rifle like the RAM or the FFAR, for example. Just something that shoots fast, has a good downing potential in close quarters, because in Warzone, this gun's going to mainly excel in the mid-range to long range. For me personally, I mean, this gun, even though it's been nerfed twice, it has more recoil, the damage fall off, whatnot. In the mid-range, for me personally, I mean, this thing still melts in that mid-range area. It's freaking awesome. But in the long range, it is a little bit tougher because it does kick a little bit more vertically, but it still has good potential, especially if you have a good feel on a controller or a mouse, whatever you're playing on. It still definitely has good potential. It can be used. I mean, if you're caught without switching over to your SMG or whatever your close range weapon is, if a person catch you by surprise in close range, I mean, you can still down somebody pretty good. You just gotta be quick with that trigger finger. So hopefully maybe you have on like the titanium barrel that helps with that fire rate. In Rebirth, that's probably the best option to go with. It's still a pretty good option, if not the best option still in Verdansk. So just definitely keep that in mind. But as far as this gun, I mean, it's still very versatile. It's still very good, even though, like I said, it's been nerfed a few times. It's still very good. It's still viable. All right, on to the attachments for Warzone, as well as Rebirth as well. So in Warzone, it's going to be a little bit more dry. It's pretty much just going to be your meta attachments. But, I mean, you can maybe swap out one or two things. But for the most part, you're going to pretty much want these attachments. You'll pretty much see them in all the other guides. Or other people talking about this, but they're meta for a reason, right? So for the muzzle here, HC suppressor, in Black Ops multiplayer, it doesn't give you that damage range, which is kind of weird, but here in Warzone, the HC suppressor gives you that range, and it gives you sound suppression, but in the multiplayer, once again, it's a little bit different. It gives you that vertical recoil. This one doesn't. Instead, it gives you that range. So go with that one. Obviously, you want more range. Here you can do a few different things here. That's, like I said, you can kind of start tweaking a little bit of things. You can use titanium, or I'd suggest doing Task Force. If it does what it says, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it gives you better range and it gives you better bullet velocity, so your bullets will connect to your enemy faster. But I've been on a kick on playing Rebirth. If you're playing Rebirth, use Titanium, hands down, I think. But if you're doing Verdansk, you can definitely use Titanium or Task Force, but Titanium's my favorite personally. For Rebirth or Verdansk, I usually go with the Axle Arms 3 times. I love the way it looks. I even like the default reticle on that one. I think it looks pretty good. Underbarrel, Field Agent foregrip. It's going to help out with that vertical recoil. Once again, it's going to kick up. This gun kicks up, so you want to manage that. You want to be as accurate as possible. Really don't need ammo. I mean, it has plenty to down multiple people. And as far as this, I'd go airborne. It's going to be your quickest aim down sight time, so you can get your sights up and start shooting. I think that's the best. But if you want less penalty, you can definitely go with the Serpent Wrap. That, once again, I mean, you can kind of mix match a few different things or kind of use one over the other. So, I mean, once again, you can use one of these two. I personally just go with this one. But once again, as far as kind of tweaking things, I mean, you really want to go with that. But like I said, you can kind of move a few different things. But in Warzone, it's a little bit more pickier than over multiplayer. Multiplayer, you can kind of mix and match a little bit more and kind of have fun with it. But other than that, that's pretty much the setup for the attachments on Warzone. So let's rate this gun in Warzone. So in Warzone, after that second nerf, it really did hurt it, especially in Verdansk, but it's still a pretty good gun in Rebirth Island. Let's start there. For Rebirth Island, I'd still, at one point it was like 11 out of 10, and then after the first nerf, 10 out of 10. But now after that second nerf, noticeable recoil and damage fall off and the headshot multiplier. So I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think that's a pretty solid score. It's still very viable, towards still top end weapon, especially the Rebirth Island, because your sight lines aren't going to be as long. It's not going to be extreme long shots. Most of your fights are going to be close range to mid range. But in Verdansk, totally different story. After that second nerf, long shots, I kind of found myself having trouble with it. I'd have to mount shots, or I kind of have to shoot, take a slight pause and start shooting. But if you're feeling it, sometimes you could just keep pulling that trigger. You just really got to kind of control that vertical recoil and kind of pull down on it. But in Verdansk, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Still pretty good gun, still really solid, but you can definitely tell a noticeable difference. All right, that about wraps it up for the DMR and Warzone. I definitely hope you found this guide helpful. If you have any additional comments or anything I need to improve on my guide or anything in general, really, just comment down below. But I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely hit that like button. I spent a lot of time on this, and it was a lot of fun doing it. But I'll definitely do some more weapon guides here in the future. But all right, you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.